Good morning. How's it going out there, folks? Good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're at on this fine Tuesday. March 4th, 2025 is the date, 10:20 a.m. That's California time here. Latest activity on the earthquake 3D globe shows a zero point 0.4 little small earthquake across California. I believe that's showing up here on the seismograph station right there across China Lake, although that looks a little bit bigger than a zero point 0.4. Let's go ahead and see what we got down here across Southern California. Going to be this quake, right? Well, that's looks to be a 1.8 here within the last few minutes or so, showing up on the China Lake station. The little 0.4, hell, that's over in Nevada. So let's take a look here, see what's going on across the West Coast. 2.5 model and above, a bunch here from yesterday. A couple more just after midnight. 2.7 down across the San Juan Bautista area. 2.5 a little bit further south here along the Parkfield segment of the San Andreas Fault. Well, very close to the Parkfield segment. You zoom in here, it looks like it may be on the creeping section, but awfully close. Getting a decent amount of earthquake activity here across the creeping segment. The Parkfield section continues to sleep with just a little periodic earthquake activity here, but we're coming up here for a 6-pointer pretty soon. And I say that because these earthquakes on the Parkfield segment are almost predictable. They come in a reoccurrence interval of about 20 to 22 years. And our last one, well, that was back in 2004. So we got that area to watch. Also a little concern here that we could see that 6-pointer potentially trigger this area down here. Of course, that's the southern branch of the San Andreas Fault. That is pretty well primed for some big earthquake activity. My phone on mute there. Double check, make sure the earthquake 3D bells are not overloading the audio, and we are recording. Okay, just wanted to make sure of that. Been having some technical issues here recently, so we'll continue to keep an eye on that. A little bit of southward migration here along the San Andreas Fault. Keep an eye on the Parkfield segment. A little bit of movement up around the Long Valley supervolcano, just outside of there. It looks like south of. Outside the Tom's Place area, it looks like a couple ones stirring up throughout the evening and early morning hours today. Nothing major going on across Southern California for now. As far as the earthquake activity around Hollywood, let's go ahead and check out a total tally here for some of these earthquakes. Got about 16 earthquakes on a fault system, maybe a fault system. And I say that because if you look at the USGS fault map here, this mentions unnamed possible fault in North Hollywood. So maybe it's a fault. I would say it's a legit fault now that that 3.9 struck on it. Very interesting here to see some earthquake activity outside of Burbank. They have it set 1 mile southeast of Hollywood. West Hollywood sits down here. Puente Hills Thrust Fault right around here. Looks like there was a little bit of earthquake activity back in February on that. And, of course, last year we've seen a swarm of earthquake activity on the Puente Hills Thrust Fault that runs directly underneath Los Angeles and is capable of producing a 7.5 earthquake. That would be more damaging to the folks there in Los Angeles compared to an 8.1 along the San Andreas Fault due to proximity. So there's that 3.9 on the second. A little interesting there for sure. No statement about it. A lot of times we'll see earthquake activity on a fault system that is undiscovered or newly discovered or maybe a fault. They'll put out a little summary or notification about it, but nothing on that. Either way, there's a little decent amount of aftershock sequences there taking place. Nothing so far today. The last one, a 1.3 from yesterday. But keeping an eye on Southern California. Last year was quite active out here across the southern portion of the state, with 2024 seeing more 4.0 earthquakes and above than at any time since the, as far as the yearly count goes, since any time since the mid 80s. So that right there tells you something that we definitely increasing the strain out here recently. Salinas area, a couple smaller earthquakes outside of that region. Looks like it's where that 2.7 struck here this morning. That is just off the San Andreas Fault. Looks like between the San Andreas and this, well, I'll let you guys read that one. Just outside of Santa Cruz here. San Francisco area, pretty quiet. Lake Tahoe, nothing going on up there across the map. I know they're still working on their maps here because the land has not filled in. It's just showing some of the fault systems underneath Lake Tahoe. But if you zoom in, well, there's the water appear. Water appears. That would look awfully funny here with no water. So they're still working on their maps, fine-tuning everything out here, and they'll get it. A little bit of movement up around the Sheldon National Wildlife Refuge. This used to be called the Sheldon National Antelope Refuge up here. Some two-pointers out there. A lot of older volcanic features in the land. Northern California got one earthquake here after midnight, a 1.7 yesterday. Well, I should say the last few days or so. It's been quite active up here across Northern California with a bunch of 2s and a bunch of 3s. Now, whether you want to call this aftershock sequences or, from the 7-pointer back in December, or just earthquake activity in general, stress being applied up here across this area. Someone asked if the earthquake activity has been, more prominent lately compared to the time past back before the 7.1 struck here back in December. Well, we were seeing earthquake activity like this prior to the 7-pointer. This is just a dynamic area where 3 plates are interacting between each other here. You got the Pacific plate to the south, North American plate right here. That's where the Cascadia subduction zone begins northward, and the Juan de Fuca plate here to the west, or if you want to call it the Gorda plate. This is technically the Gorda plate right here. Well, it's just about done though. There's not much left of it. It's being subducted underneath the southern end here of the Cascadia subduction zone. Got the spreading seafloor center out here, further pushing the remnants of that Gorda plate out of here underneath the region to later fuel volcanoes out here across the area. So it's just continued earthquake activity, and at any time when there's elevated earthquake activity, we could see something larger. Keep an eye on that. Tremor activity last night. Let me check out the tremor. I didn't quite get a chance to do an update last night, folks. I apologize about it. It's pretty busy. 9 epicenters of tremor here across the underneath towards the Eugene area. This is not surface earthquakes or anything, or earthquakes in general. This is just tremor activity being recorded. A slow slip event. Very minimal activity, though, at 9 epicenters into that area of the Cascadia subduction zone underneath here. About 45 kilometers or so. Nothing to show for that, but we'll definitely keep an eye there. Seattle, Washington area. Let's see what we got up here outside of the Orcas area. I think that's correct, right? That's the only way I would see the correct pronunciation. Orcas, Washington area. This is where a decent earthquake struck, a 4.5 earthquake. Early yesterday morning there. Not associated with the Devil's Mountain Fault. That's a little bit further down south here. Not associated with the Seattle Fault. That's up here. But I was looking at this, and there's really not a fault system up here. At least none on the USGS map, even from what I can find looking around on the internet. So it's a little odd to see some earthquake activity around this area. Not a whole lot of historical data either. But a 4.5, just about 10 miles underneath this area, shaking things up out there. Was felt fairly broadly out there. Interesting. See, they even have a name for it here, which means, a lot of times when they do that, they'll put out a little summary, but no summary on this earthquake as well. So look at that. A notable quake. 2025 Orcas Island, Washington earthquake, 4.5. I don't pay attention to the aftershock forecast because, their textbook type forecasting there is just off. I don't really agree with it. But a 4.5, many aftershocks. Let's see here, 42 earthquakes in total. These are really small aftershocks. I'm really surprised we haven't seen anything larger. You tell me we haven't even seen a 2-pointer? Hold on a second here. Let's see. Yeah, not even a 2-pointer. What's going on with that? A bunch of zeros in there, but that doesn't make sense. How are we having so many microquakes, but nothing in the 1 to 2 range? That's a little odd. A little odd to see a 4.5 and then a bunch of zeros and negative quakes. That's a little interesting. I look at this all the time here, and I don't see that all that often. But it's interesting nonetheless there. 0.4 looks to be the latest one here in this area this morning. Keep an eye on it. A lot going on here recently across the Puget Sound region. If you look back the last 30 days of earthquake activity, and if you include the movement, Vancouver, right? A lot of activity up there recently with the 4.8. The Seattle fault has been a hot spot of earthquake activity on the west side and the east side recently. Mount Rainier, a lot of movement along the Cascades out here. Stress quakes associated with the strain out here against the coast, the Cascadia subduction zone. So this is not just, it's a localized event if you look at the 4.5, but it's an overall trend here, similar to what we've seen in California recently of elevated uptick on a broad scale. That's happening up here across Washington in the past 30 days. So as always, there's potential for larger movement. And I think we'll see some. It seems like any tremor activity that occurs down underneath this area is resulting in strain quakes upstream or up at the surface levels or above the tremor. So that in itself right there tells me that things are quite strained out here. So we'll watch Pacific Northwest with that activity. One earthquake off the Cascadia earlier back in, well, it's just about, this is on the 30-day map, so this is about 30 days ago on the 4th of February, just prior to the Cascadia subduction zone. All right, what else we have out here? What do we got going on down south here? Off the Imperial Fault, 2.6 in the last 10 minutes or so. No swarming going on here across Southern California, but we'll definitely watch it. Let's see, Yellowstone National Park, really nothing showing up here on the map. A couple earthquakes out in Idaho and Montana, but really nothing big happening. Texas oil fields still getting hit. Oklahoma as well. Seen some either wind or tornado damage out here around the Dallas-Fort Worth area and across a wide area last night and early this morning. We'll check out the weather here in just a little bit, but there's a huge squall line that came through with some embedded tornadoes. Nothing going on there across the eastern portion of the country. Take a look here at the last 24 hours. Largest earthquake, a 5.3 earthquake from last night, Solomon Islands. So far today, 4.7 up here across the Aleutian Trench, a little bit further west here, making a little westward trend. If you look at the last 30 days, of course, hiccups never fail. It's a curse, goodness. A lot of activity working its way in. It's somewhat larger as well, the 4 and 5 range, further along this plate boundary. This has to fill in. This is a major subduction zone, and in fact, the strain out here in this area is higher in terms of accumulated slip rate than areas across this region. So I find it a little odd that, see, if you look at the Alaska area up here, about 60 mm on average per slip rate per year, across this area of the Aleutian Trench, and it increases across this region just due to the direction of the plates here, where it subducts here across the Aleutian Trench. So this area has been quiet, but today, a little earthquake on it, 4.7. Watch for that region here. It may fill in a little bit larger magnitude because it's been quiet here in the last 30 days. It's a seismic gap, and normally when seismic gaps are visible like that on a 30-day chart, that normally fills in quite nicely. And it's obvious, right? If you back out, yeah, that should be filling in. Let's see what else we got here across the area today as far as earthquake 3D globe goes. The Atlantic Ocean, pretty quiet, nothing going on. Puerto Rico has calmed down for the earthquake activity. Still some movement, but not as active as what we had there across the Puerto Rico Trench in a swarm fashion there recently. No big earthquake activity around there, but a noticeable increase. New Zealand, a little bit of activity down here. South Island, 3.1. Also a 4-pointer here outside the Wellington region to the west. last night. Late afternoon. That's going to be California time here. Early evening. That earthquake, 140 miles deep. Now that could very well be associated with the Cascade or the Hikurangi subduction zone that sits offshore here. You can see it well defined on the oceanic crust map right here up northward. Now that's a major subduction zone that's capable of producing a mega quake, and it's been quite a while since they've seen any big earthquake activity out there on that subduction zone. Similar to the Cascadia, we could very well be seeing a big earthquake out here soon. Deeper activity here indicating some movement and strain building up out here across the locked areas, so to speak. As far as anything else major going on, typical clustering across the Indonesia Islands area, Santorini area. I don't see any major swarms going on there, but we'll double check that. This is from yesterday. Yeah, this is still from yesterday. Let's back out of here real quick. Go to the geophysics site. Or was that today? It looks like it's on the 4th. Hold on. We'll go to the networks here and see what they have. Almost looks similar. Today's activity, 3-4. Pretty quiet on that seismograph station there. Only a handful of earthquakes. The one across the area of the caldera, center caldera. There's some earthquake activity out there. More localized to the center caldera. If you look here, this is off to the east of the Santorini, eastern side of the caldera. The Santorini region, showing that earthquake. But this one looks a little bit more localized. Looks like there's some more earthquake activity happening center of that volcano. A couple earthquakes out there around that region. Total tally, numbers are going down, 532. Let's see what we got for the magnitudes out here in the last couple hours. Some 2s out there. I don't see anything big. I don't see any 3s. 2.9 today, right in the cluster of the swarming. So we're still seeing earthquake activity. That's not going away. It looks like we're seeing probably around, if it's staying pretty consistent up here in the numbers per week, then that means we're getting about between 80 to 100 earthquakes per day still across that area of the Santorini region. 3-pointer. That was earlier today. It looks like there was a couple 3-pointers. One way off here. To the west here as well, if you look on the map. So who knows? Watching it pretty closely, seeing how it plays out. I mean, I don't think this was just all for nothing. There has to be a cause and effect. Let's see. Hawaii entered into the 12th episode early this morning. So let's go check out the webcams up here across the summit area. Did it pause already? Looks like it may have paused already. A little bit of hard to tell. Is that a lens flare? No, there's kind of foggy out there, so that's got to be magma or lava up here. I'm looking down into that crater region. Let's go see what they're saying here. These have been short-lived eruptions. So this update was put out. This was put out yesterday here. Far as the update goes, so did they not mention anything here? Because I could have swore I seen a statement here from the USGS that this has gone into the 12th stage of an eruption. Let me take a look here. Maybe not. Maybe that was a dream I had. I don't know, because I don't see any deformation. We should be getting awfully close here. Because I shared it on a social media platform there. Let me go back and double check, see which one I shared. No, see, so from the USGS Volcano site, I reposted it from them this morning. on Kilauea Volcano. Episode 12 continues to erupt from only the south vent at 7:50 a.m. on March 4th. Lava is highly degassed and is overflowing the vent with very little fountaining. So there was another eruption here. A low-grade one, but I knew it. That's what they put out here just under an hour ago, and I shared it on my social media account. So they must have not have updated yet here, but looks like there was a little eruption. So this is probably just a precursor. I mean, if lava was flown out, technically that's an eruption status, but I'm really not seeing it there on the deformation data. This is current, is it not? Yes, the 4th. Because this will drop. It will drop like this on each previous eruption. And then it'll go up. So it looks like we're probably pretty close to seeing some big-time fountaining going on from one of the vents there. But maybe a little bit of eruption this morning. All right. At least that's what they're stating. Let's see what else we got here for any major earthquake news. Nothing major yet. I still feel like something big is coming out here. I've kind of been getting it in the air, getting that vibe out here. Space weather activity. Solar Ham he's got, technically he's got all the information out here that will just run itself. You really don't need a human to run any of this information out here unless you're doing some manual inputs out here on the page. So I'm glad that he's back. It may have, I know he watches this channel. Kevin does. I've donated to this site many times in the past to help him keep his website up. And it's good. I like the layout. I guess I wasn't the only one, kind of sad about him leaving. But he's back. Far as just this, just the some of the prime elements here that he mentions on the website, and this will run itself. These are all links to the actual websites. He just has them embedded here in images so that we can view them on a one format out here. It's nice. So let's go ahead and take a look, see what we do have. Solar flare activity direct from the Space Weather Prediction Center. When you click on it, just see flare activity, but we are going up a little bit here in terms of a little crackling here. So let's go see what we have for the latest magnetogram image. I'm definitely glad you're back there, Kevin. I mean, it's, just this is it. This is basically what we need, the information. So I see what's going on here, it looks like. This sunspot region right here over the last couple days has been growing. Not rapidly, but it's definitely been growing in size and coverage out here. And there's a little bit of complexity out there. If you really look at all these different colors, intermixing of the magnetic structure, well, that's when you get that special spark out there between all the polarities. And you get these old solar flares. Right now, nothing big, just some C-flare activity. But if it continues to grow like that, then we may see somewhat of a little bit, maybe an M-flare threat or so. I'll have to bump that up now that it looks a little bit more complex. It is showing up here on the visible disk as well. So backing out of here, looking at that, just my judgment, I don't see his flare threat. Well, his flare threat is up here. 99% chance for C-flare. M-flare at 30, X-flare at 1%, but more than likely, this is probably going to go up here to about 45 or 50% for an M-flare. X-flare, really not so much, but we'll keep our eyes open for some M-flare activity. As far as auroras go, they are forecasting here a little bit of geomagnetic storming over the next couple nights. And this is due to, a CME, coronal mass ejection here recently. And maybe just some general high-speed solar wind stream that's flowing from the sun that could amplify the auroras here in the coming nights, But not expecting too much here, as far as any, way south aurora activity like we've seen last year. That's pretty awesome. We need some Earth-directed CMEs. All right. Let's go check out asteroids, see if we got anything major coming to the planet. Any huge asteroids heading this way? Hopefully not. I remember having a dream a couple years back, and it still sticks with me to this day because it was so real. I had a dream that, a huge asteroid. I don't remember exactly how big it was. Probably something along this line here, 500 foot or more. We're all watching out on social media, and I was on the opposite side of the planet here, the North American side. It was supposed to hit somewhere land, I think around Europe or something. And I remember when it impacted the planet. This is just a dream now, not taking place. But I remember feeling the earthquake that it produced when it impacted the planet on the opposite side of the globe. And I was like, well, this is it. Any minute now we're going to get the heat blast and the waves and stuff like that from the explosion of the impact. But it was just a weird dream. I remember it, and it still kind of sends chills through my body when I think about it, because that's scary if you really think about it. Knowing that a big rock is going to hit the planet and there's nothing we can do about it. What do you do? All right, so looking at I shouldn't say forecast, but the next 5 close approach asteroids here, nothing coming within close distance here. I mean, I guess the closest one is 42-foot bus-size asteroid, 294 miles from the planet. Now, the Earth, on average, the distance between the Earth and the Moon is about 239,000 miles. It fluctuates there, obviously. So that's just the average. That's close, but not close enough to get into investigation stage. All right, storm predictions there. Man, a lot of severe weather last night out there across the Texas area. Let's see what we got for our storm reports as of, this is for 3/3 yesterday. Only one report of a tornado up in Oklahoma. A lot of wind damage out there. I know a lot of damage around the Texas area, Dallas-Fort Worth. They were expecting some high winds, 70, 85 miles an hour or so. But right now, only one report. Up around the, let's see, what is this? Ada area, looks like. A lot of hail, a lot of big-time wind reports as well. Strong straight-line winds. When you get the squall line like that, it was a huge, massive squall line. I've been in a couple of those before. In fact, when I was out there storm chasing a couple of years back, I basically followed that squall line all the way east here across Texas. It was kind of nice. Hours and hours of lightning. It was pretty neat. Of course, that's just me. I like doing that stuff. And like the weather watching aspect of things. But nothing. No tornado reports around Dallas-Fort Worth today. A lot of wind reports. A lot of wind. It may have, I'm sure more data will come in after review. But man, a lot of wind reports out there. So the severe weather today, though, looks like that has shifted east with an enhanced area out here across the south. Got a decent chance for some tornado activity as well. 10% hatched area. Now that's the main region for concern due to all the ingredients necessary to produce strong damaging tornadoes with this severe weather setup. Looking at EF2 to an EF5 tornado within 25 miles of a point within this 10% zone, 10% or greater. So got to watch that. 5% extending, 2% around that. So anywhere within this region, you have a risk for some severe weather today as far as tornado activity goes. Big time wind, as noted, and hail out there as well. I'm kind of curious to see what that line looks like. It's probably still just a massive squall line. You got the warmer air coming up, cooler air behind it. Weather radar, there it is. A little bit more broad in terms of coverage out here. But last night when this fired up here across western Oklahoma, it was just a thin line of just nothing but strong storms. And it's still that way, but just a little bit more broader coverage out here. And all that's headed east, folks, so just be on guard. Tomorrow, all that obviously going to shift east. Of course, got to watch out for tonight as well. Got some tornado threat for tomorrow as well across the eastern seaboard. Wind appears to be a big thing with these squall lines, which is no joke. A little bit of hail threats up there across the Pennsylvania area as well. Let's see here. We'll put this into motion. There's that severe weather moving east with that low pressure. Another low pressure behind that, I think. I don't really see a whole lot of severe weather threats there, but we got some more rain coming up here for California as we enter into the second week of March. Southern California going to get some rainfall as well. March 14th. Ooh, that's a nice little pull up of some tropical moisture from the Gulf right there, if that rings true. That's for Wednesday, March 19th. Comes up out of the blue. That could be a severe weather event. Look at the interaction here of cold air, warm air. That could be a dandy of a severe weather maker out there across Texas. You have to watch that pretty closely there. Getting into that time period, folks, springtime. That's when things really start to ramp up for tornado activity and severe weather. Just got to be prepared. Similar to earthquakes, right? Well, earthquakes, you don't see them coming up on a map. I guess you do in a way. There's little patterns like I've been talking about, elevated seismic activity, but nothing like a radar, right? Where obviously it's an hour away, half an hour away, 20 minutes away. This here, a little different. Anyway, folks, stay safe out there. Kind of cloudy, cool. Picked up a few sprinkles out here this morning. It's supposed to be that way for, off and on rain here for the next couple weeks across California. So that is good. Keep everything nice and green. I'm a big green guy. I love greenery. And, yeah. We'll catch you guys back out here a little bit later on this evening. Just stay safe. No big earthquake activity out here across the West Coast for now, but like I say, keep an eye. Seattle southward here. Elevated seismic activity, an obvious elevated seismic event taking place out here, but no big earthquake activity yet. But these elevated regions of concern are a sign of strain out here. And you could just throw a dart out here on the map. I don't know if I'd want to do it on my computer screen because then I'd be buying a brand new computer screen. But somewhere out here, I just don't know where exactly it's going to hit. Just be prepared. We'll catch you guys out here a little bit later on this evening, folks. Stay safe.